Welcome into the Behind the Wall post-game show. I am your host, Landon Tangwall, former offensive lineman for Penn State, and we are talking Penn State, USC. Penn State just eked out a win in LA in the Coliseum. That was one of the more exciting games I have probably ever seen in my Penn State career of watching Penn State games. Drew Aller absolutely had a monster day. 391 yards, 2 touchdowns, 3 picks. But, hey, a little Brett Favre style will get it done. And obviously headlined, and we're going to talk about this a lot, Tyler Warren, man. 17 receptions, 224 yards, and a touchdown, playing center, playing wide receiver, doing it all. Absolutely, what a game. I'm looking at the big goon Conlon right now. He is not able to go on air, I would say. Just letting you guys know. Normally, we have Goon on. We're at Quaker Steak and Lube right now. As you see, I am in the Big Goon and Ironhead spot. If you are watching on YouTube, check me out at Behind the Wall with Landon Tangwall. If you listen on the radio, we're going to have a good time in this post game. That was really, really fun. What a response by Penn State to only score 6 points in that first half as a whole, and then come out, score 27 the rest of the way. That was really, really exciting. And let's kind of just dive right into this. Starting at the beginning of the game, obviously started fast, went down. And I think everybody was excited to see the offense drive all the way down. We got negated by an offensive PI that really shouldn't have been an offensive PI on Julian Fleming. There would have been an extra touchdown for Tyler Warren. But nonetheless, started a little slow once again, and we came back and did our thing. I told you guys before the game, I said, hey, they are going to make Drew Aller beat them with his arm. 391 yards later, I think he did that. USC made mistakes. And Penn State capitalized, honestly. And so, God, I don't even know where to start with that, guys. Shout out the Penn State offense. I don't know exactly where we were now. At the end of the fourth quarter, we had 70 plays ran on offense. They had 48. So we are, guys, I don't even know where to go right now. I am teed up right now. This was such a fun game to watch. Shout out, Miller Moss had an okay day. I think we did a good job. You look at the ground game, and Penn State really struggled. I don't think that was something that we expected to struggle with, especially with how good we have been on defense. Up front, the defensive line, the linebackers have been really stout against the run all year. And USC came in, and they were extremely explosive in the run game. They got going. I don't even know what to say, man. Hell of a stand by the defense at the end, too. That pick by Jay Reed. I don't think it can be overstated how important that play was there. Really kind of, like I said, Penn State obviously didn't, it took us to overtime, but it kept them from getting into field goal range, and their kicker has a little bit of range on him. So that completely changed the game. Now, obviously, one thing I do want to talk about, Nick Singleton didn't play as much. I do think the idea was to limit his carries a little bit. We are heading into the bye week, and the last thing you want to do is continue to injure Nick Singleton even further. Go into the bye week, allow him to heal up a little bit. He will be back for Wisconsin, I think, full steam ahead. No, let's just talk about Tyler Warren for a second. I think this is the best playmaker in all of college football. If there is even a vote for the Mackey Award, that's disrespectful. Tyler Warren is by far the best tight end, and like I said, I think he is the best playmaker right now. These comebacks are starting to remind me of 2016, Jim Himes said in the comment section. I don't disagree with you. Obviously I wasn't really too much of a fan then. I did come to the 2016 Ohio State game as a recruit, but man, it is. The offense is looking electric, and the fact that we were able to start out how we started out, I think the offense came out, was a little bit lackluster to start. And I was like, okay, where are we going from here? Here's what I'll say. Coming into the game, USC, it was like, hey, they should be scared. That Miller Moss should be nervous back there. Their offensive line is going to allow a ton of pressure on Miller Moss. And, it happened a little bit, but not to the extent that I think we thought that it was going to happen. So you come in Penn State's offense, it looked like Penn State's offense was the one that was a little bit scared to start. It looked like they didn't want to unleash Drew Aller, let him throw deep, give some guys some chances. Talk about giving Tyler Warren a chance. He's snapping the ball, sneaks out of the backfield, runs down there, catches a 40-yard touchdown. And let's talk about that for a second. Everybody has been saying, hey, why is Drew Aller still in on those Wildcat plays? Why do we keep Drew in? I've been saying for the double pass. I've been saying wait for the double pass. Here is the double pass. That is why you keep Drew Aller in those wildcat formations. I'm just talking about Tyler Warren for a second, man. He played every single position today: slot wide receiver, center, tackle, tight end, running back, everything. He blocked his butt off. It was really fun to see the best playmaker in college football do his thing. I think, thank God for Tyler Warren, because he's the reason that our offense got started. I don't know if we would have gotten going if we did not have Tyler Warren here right now. And yeah, you're absolutely right. Julian Fleming deserves a shout out. I think a lot of guys after that drop pass, everybody said, hey, just bench him, rule him out, that type of thing. He came back and he did his thing, had two really clutch catches. Talk about that. I mean, that fourth down in USC's around the 25-yard line, it was 4th and 10. What a way to come through for the team, Julian Fleming finishing off that drive. We have a kicker, someone said in the comments section on YouTube. You're absolutely right, we do. The world was just introduced to Ryan Barker, and he's got ice in his veins. That was really fun to watch. And are we in a world now where we can actually rely on our kicker guys? Oh, my God, it feels somewhat good. I'm not, we haven't seen him kick anything too long. But, hey, if he can convert from 40 and in consistently, I think we're living in a good world. And no, I don't mean to get too far ahead. We're going to the bye week, and this is a really emotional win. I think Wisconsin's going to be a test. They put up 42 points on Rutgers. It was 42-7 against a decent Rutgers team. So that's going to be a test in the upcoming future. But, guys, we're looking at an opportunity to be 1 versus 2, maybe 2 versus 3. It's very likely when we play Ohio State, it'll be 2 versus 3, depending on what happens, and they decide to put Ohio State at 1 maybe. There's a world where it's 1 versus 3, 1 versus 2. That Ohio State game in 3 weeks in November, I think it's November 2nd. That's going to be for all the marbles, guys. I am really excited for that one. And just talking about Ohio State real quick, obviously let's get back to Penn State. But we are rooting for Ohio State tonight. I just want to be clear because we do not play Oregon. We play Ohio State. So if Ohio State wins, that's good for us. Give Oregon a loss, and then we're still playing an undefeated team. We do not, as much as I know it's in your blood to root against Ohio State, root for Ohio State. That is what helps us out the most. Now, Drew Aller, obviously started out, it was kind of a little bit of a rough road for him to start out. Wasn't super efficient, was missing a couple guys, wasn't helped out by his wide receivers, and then comes out in the second half and does what he does. Like I said, 391 yards. That is by far Drew Aller's all-time passing record right there. He, I think it was 325 was his record against West Virginia last year in his first ever starting game. He came out, almost went for 400, and I think obviously in due big part to Tyler Warren. That was just a hell of a game from those guys. And then more of wide receiver by committee, honestly. We got Amari Evans with a catch, Liam Clifford, Julian Fleming, Harrison Wallace, Tyler Warren, obviously. A lot of catches. Way back says, Jesus Christ, I'm 5 years older after that game. me and you both, brother. I think I lost a couple years off of my life for sure. Tyler Warren was clearly the MVP of this Penn State game. I don't even think it was close. I think if Tyler Warren's not there, I don't really know where we go with our offense, because it did feel like we got to a point where there was nothing working except going to Tyler Warren. So I like to see that from Tyler. It was really fun to watch as a whole. And we're going to dive back into some notes that I wrote down during the game. Now, we got to talk about the bow position too. I know I don't want to we just won an insane game. We had 2 false starts when Bo came in. It was incredible confusion, and it just didn't really work out. And now here's a little bit of my theory. It's like they're kind of phasing out the Bo offense, and it's just like Tyler. They were like, hey, Tyler can kind of throw anyways. He's an elite threat. You put him back there, he can do everything. He used to play quarterback, so he has a little bit of feel for it. I don't know. I feel like they kind of phased out Bo a little bit and said, hey, let's have Tyler play this role. And he's doing a damn good job. It's like, the one thing I will say is I feel like there's a couple too many times where we're messing up the rhythm, where someone said in the comment section on YouTube, Goon is too drunk, ? Yeah, we're not putting the big Goon on air. I don't know where he's at. I think I'm looking at him right now. Probably would not be allowed on air right now. So that's probably a good thing that it's me solo dolo at the moment. We are here at Quaker Steak and Lube. And this show is sponsored by Campus Steaks. Go check them out, Downtown State College. It is a Philly thing. Shout out my man Joe, the owner down there. Now, real quick, one thing I do want to talk about, the cornerbacks. Cam Miller played it exceptionally well. I didn't get that right. See? Too long at Quaker Steak and Lube today. Exceptionally well today. And then Zion Tracy, Elliott Washington, some guys that came up big. Elliott Washington is someone I think that is really impressing the coaches. I wouldn't be surprised to see him continuing to play a lot. Franklin said at the beginning of the season, he said, hey, I have 5 to 6 cornerbacks I feel like can start. And I think sometimes when a coach says that, you're like, okay, yeah, whatever you say. I don't think he was really wrong. I think A.J. Harris has been locked down. Jalen Kimber has been really good up to this point. So I like what I'm seeing. Terry Smith is doing his things with those defensive backs. Now, talking about Jalen Reed, the interception was ginormous. At the end there, I think Abdul Carter did flash a little bit. Then Dennis Sutton with that tackle for a loss that made that field goal a little bit longer in overtime. That was huge too. I think they knew they were tired. USC kept coming back to that same run, that counter run scheme where they pull 2 guys, they pull the backside guard and the tight end, and they try to get around. And they had a lot of success with that in the first half. It did not work. Now, talking about Andy Kotelnicki's offense, struggled early on. Like I said, it looked like we were just kind of playing a little scared. It looked like Drew Aller wasn't confident, which was the first time we've seen that from him out of the whole entire year. Now, getting in the red zone, I will say this. There does seem to be a little bit of blandness from Andy Kotelnicki once we get into the red zone. It seems like that's where there is a little bit of struggle. He does love his pick routes. When you get near the end zone, he wants to get Tyler Warren the ball, and a pick route is when you essentially have one, and in Andy Kotelnicki's case, a lot of times he has 2 wide receivers almost picking / blocking the defensive back to kind of spring open someone else. So we saw a lot of that in the red zone. I think there's a world where we can get a little more creative in the red zone. I am excited to see you have a bye week. You got some time to kind of recoup. You are headed to Wisconsin in 2 weeks. Should be interesting. I wrote down early in the game, the refs were working for USC. I have to say by the end, I think we probably got the better shake from the refs. There was a couple times, and I don't think this is going to be talked about too much, that illegal chop block penalty essentially going low right before half when Woody Marks ran it down to our 9-yard line, and they brought it all the way back to like the 42-yard line. That play was huge. It completely swung the momentum of the game. And going into half, it was like, okay, this is a little more manageable with them holding them to a field goal instead of getting a touchdown. So there was a couple calls from the refs that helped us out a little bit. I will give them that. But their right tackle was false starting egregiously. I cannot believe that was not seen from the refs. There were so many times that USC's right tackle was getting off that ball way too early. So that kind of really pissed me off. But talking about USC's offense, it was what we expected it to be, guys. And like I said, I literally told you it was their run game, not consistent, but very explosive. I said it multiple times. That's what it was. Extremely explosive, but could they count on it when they really needed? No, they couldn't. And then on top of that, they have playmakers. You saw it. They have guys that can be really fast in space, and that's kind of what happened. So that's why they got loose. That's why they did a good job. Obviously staying in this game, it was their playmakers that kept them in the game. Now, Woody Marks looked like Reggie Bush out there for a little bit. First half, Woody Marks, Reggie Bush Heisman. That's what it looked. That's what our defense had them looking like. But I will say, Oregon just picked off Ohio State. Oh no, they're calling it a catch now. Sorry, I'm like live commentating. I'm at the Lube, guys. We're at the Quaker Steak and Lube. The Ohio State Oregon game is on tonight, so I'm sure we're all going to enjoy that after this one. But you got to sit back, have a beer, be excited after that Penn State win. We are 6-0 heading into the bye week. And let me tell you one thing. That plane ride on the way back is going to be bumping. They are going to be playing music, doing this, that, and the third, certain things I shouldn't even say on here. There's going to be a good time on that airplane back to State College. And hey, if we want to talk about the travel for 1 second before we go to break, fun fact, because of the jet fuel, we will fly back into State College Airport. That has been the talk the entire time. Shout out my man Alex Felkins in the comments, Penn State kicker, showing some love for Ryan Barker. What a day for Ryan Barker, 4 for 4. from field goals and the game-winning kick in overtime. Never a doubt. Franklin said he had faith in him the entire time, and you love to see it, man. It is an exciting time to be a Penn State fan, and we are sitting back comfortably enjoying this night game now. And I think our heart rate, everybody maybe making a doctor's appointment on Monday or Tuesday. I think my heart rate went over 120 beats per minute multiple times. But you know what? We'll be all right. We'll be all right. That is what Penn State brings to us. And if you're a Steelers fan at all, you know that feeling all too well. So now, one thing I thought about the USC defense is they tackled incredibly well. And this is a team that last week they had a season high 15 missed tackles versus Minnesota, and they were kind of coming in and striking us a little bit. I thought Nick Singleton took some big time hits where it was like, oh shoot, I hope he is okay. And to kind of talking about the first half as a whole, USC, obviously it was USC dominated, but they were 0 for 4 on third downs throughout the first half. They were just driving at will. They weren't even getting the third down. It was on first and second down for the whole half, and not a lot of stops from that Penn State defense. So I'm on my second bottle of heart relief, Kent says in the comment section. I think a lot of people are using a little bit of relief for this game right now. That was you guys got to comment. If you are in my YouTube, if you're listening on the radio, you can also check me out at Behind the Wall with Landon Tangwall. We are live on YouTube right now. Let me know, when was the last time Penn State had a game this exciting? I think the Rose Bowl kind of took a turn at the end. It wasn't super exciting once Cam Rising got hurt. I think you're probably going, you're probably going back to like 2019 for a game like this maybe. I don't know. This was pretty close. It's been a long time. And if you saw CBS, shout out CBS, maybe not actually, because they put on the last overtime game Penn State had. They had to bring up the 9 overtime Illinois, but damn it, it was a different victory, different type of win for us today. Yeah, I really think the last game that there was this exciting, like it could have been the 2016 Rose Bowl. I think that's how exciting this game was. Coming over from a week with UCLA that I think might have been the most boring game in my Penn State time since I've been here. So a little bit of a turn of events here for Penn State. And yeah, a lot of people were, that was a tough one. Now, let's talk about the Penn State defense for a second. I talked about the defensive backs. I thought Zion Tracy, Elliott Washington, Jalen Reed, obviously. There's a couple times where Jalen Reed tracked someone down on third down, did not let them convert. But what was really interesting is in the beginning, in the first 3.5 quarters, there was really no pressure on Miller Moss, which I think, and I gave you guys the stats. I mean, there was like 46 pressures on Miller Moss within the past 3 weeks. I think against Minnesota, there was over 20 pressures that Minnesota generated on Miller Moss. And that really wasn't the same case for Penn State. Miller Moss and USC, Lincoln Riley did a really good job getting rid of the ball, getting the ball out quick. They were hitting their screens. There was a ton of screens that we ran. I am certain they are going to be practicing their screen coverage and recognition. And I'll tell you, the reason why USC ran so many screens is because Abdul Carter and Dennis Sutton, they are so aggressive when rushing the passer. They rush upfield and they just shoot up the field. That's what you want in a screen. You want to get all those defensive linemen. You want to let them through. You want to get them upfield away from the ball. Then you dump the screen off over top. And that's kind of what USC did a really good job of. Honestly, I think, and I told you guys this, I said, hey, I think USC is going to turn the ball over a couple times, give us an opportunity. That missed kick kind of counts as that. I think that was the defensive stands in the second half. I think we have to give a shout out to Tom Allen. I know, I'm not saying he's Manny Diaz. He's not. And nor do I really think his defense is as good. If we want to talk about Adisa Isaac and Chop Robinson versus Abdul Carter and Dennis Sutton, I don't really think that conversation is that close. I think there is clear the productivity came from the guys last year. But Tom Allen's his ability to adjust is bar none one of the best. And I'll tell you, LeVar Arrington, I was talking to him last week. He said, man, I was on the sidelines and that dude is drawing. I mean, he was like, he's getting the calls down from the box, that type of thing. He was adjusting. He was changing scheme, all that type of stuff, doing a really good job. He said, hey, I'm in the locker room here and that type of stuff, hearing him do a great job. Just telling the players, hey, this is what's going on. This is how we need to adjust, and then executing upon that. I think that's the hardest thing. It's one thing to say, hey, they're doing X, Y, Z. can you adjust and actually stop it? Tom Allen has done a pretty good job. Obviously, USC had that drive to go down and go up 7 on Penn State, but also that's a really good offense from USC. Yeah, that is one thing I do want to say. KJ Winston, I don't think the game is as close if you have KJ Winston. I think he makes a lot of plays. I think that, obviously losing him, there's a couple other guys that we've lost that have hurt the team a little bit, but up to this point, it hasn't harmed us too much. Now, I think some of those plays that USC broke off, those long runs, that long touchdown run, those are the things that KJ Winston sees before it happens. And when you're the safety back there, it is really important for you to be able to anticipate and see what the offense is really trying to do before they do it. That's something that KJ Winston was so good at, just because of his natural ability. And obviously missing that hurts. When you plug in someone like Dejon Lane, who's a true freshman, he's good, but he does not have the skills, or he doesn't have the skills or just the playing time that KJ Winston has to anticipate that type of thing. So love what I saw overall from the defense, especially just being able to battle back. I think this was clearly the best offense we have played up to this point. I think outside of Ohio State, it will be the best offense we play, and maybe the most dynamic, just from the playmakers and the pure speed. They just didn't have the offensive line to try to do what they really wanted. I think anytime where you saw them really try to start to drop back, it was like, okay, Abdul Carter. And shout out to Jalen Reed. This has not been talked about enough. Jalen Reed's ability to get home on pass rush. There was a huge holding call on him on 3rd down where USC passed it all the way down, I think, to like our 9-yard line. It got brought all the way back because Jalen Reed put a move on Woody Marks, USC's running back. Woody Marks had to hold him, and they had to end up punting that drive. So Jalen Reed, he's playing a lot of that line position, which is the hybrid. It's a kind of a hybrid between a safety and a middle linebacker, and an outside linebacker. And so he gets to be around the line of scrimmage, and not at all, Jalen Reed doesn't play like him, but think Troy Polamalu, how he got to just kind of be all over the field, line up over top of the center, outside of the tackle, all over. That is what they're doing with Jalen Reed right now. And it is causing offenses trouble because he is so dynamic. He can cover, he can make tackles around the line of scrimmage, and he has shown some really good pass rush moves up to this point. One other thing I do want to mention before we go to break, we're going to go to break in 1 second for 2 minutes, and then we'll be right back, is that Abdul Carter, the biggest pressure of the game in overtime on that 3rd down before they kicked the field goal and they ended up missing it. Abdul Carter was lined up over the center, and there's been a lot of talk about where Abdul should be. And he had a sack today, but it doesn't feel like he's been super effective at defensive end. I think you got to continue to move Abdul Carter all the way around and do things with him. Line him up over the center, over the guard. He almost had an interception. He was that close to an interception. I mean, just so close. He would have gotten his hands up, and I mean, it really hit him right in the hands, honestly. I think he probably should have pulled that one down. But overall, I love seeing what I saw from the defense. 518 total yards from the offense. Holy crap. Yeah. It was a good day. And, talking about, someone asked, do you think we have a legitimate chance to knock off Ohio State? I think we do. I think, obviously, in my opinion, Ohio State is the most talented team in college football. We are at home against Ohio State, and we'll be coming off an away game at Wisconsin, where hopefully we can kind of get our feet back under us from the bye week. I am really glad we're not going straight to Ohio State after the bye week. I mean, obviously it's at home. I'm glad, give us a little bit of time, ease back into it. But I think that Wisconsin game, guys, be ready for that. That is a little bit of a trap game. You come off an emotional win against USC. You go into a bye week. You get to rest. I'm sure the boys are going to be playing some golf this weekend, having a good time. Well, then you go to Wisconsin, a team, I think they just blew out Rutgers today. Rutgers only put up 7 points. I think, it's been a long day, guys. They put up 42-7 against Rutgers. They did. So, there's a couple games around the schedule. Minnesota looks decent. Purdue might be one of the worst teams in college football. We go out there. That should be interesting. Maryland got throttled by Northwestern. So where we sit right now, I'm going to be honest, we're looking at 11-1, guys. Worst case, not worst case. Like I said, that wins any given Saturday, but this is the year. I think this is the year from a couple standpoints. You talk about the depth that we have on this team, from offensive line to defensive line to cornerback, all that type of stuff. Drew Aller, you don't know who's not going to come back next year. I think we lose a ton of guys. This is the year that is our playoff run, and now we are battle tested, and I think that's a big thing. And someone, the announcer, said that on the broadcast for CBS. He said, "What this means for Penn State is you are battle tested against a really good team." And I know it's hard to call a team that's 3-3 a good team. I think USC is one of the better 3-3 teams of all time. They have had a couple really bad things go their way. That's kind of been the moral of the story of their entire season up to this point. But now, obviously, if you're Penn State, and I said this pregame, it was kind of a lose-lose for Penn State. If you won, it was, hey, it's an unranked USC. You're supposed to beat them. And if you lose, you just lost to an unranked team. You suck. So there's going to be a little bit of that from all the naysayers around. But guess what? James Franklin, 6-0, going back on that airplane. And like I said, that airplane, they'll take off in an hour and a half, get out of there, and get back to State College. They'll get in at State College Airport around 3 to 4 a.m., and there is going to be a party on that damn airplane. You best believe the boys are going to live it up. I hope Tyler Warren has the greatest night of his life, man. He deserves it. All right, we will be right back. This is the Behind the Wall post-game show. We are here at the Quaker Steak and Lube in State College, so stop on by, get some good wings, drinks, that type of thing. Watch LSU Ole Miss is on as well, but then you got Oregon, Ohio State, which is 2 versus 3. So we will be right back after this short break.
The Center Hall Farm Store has been serving Center County and beyond for well over a half century. A small family business, the Center Hall Farm Store specializes in animal nutrition and manufactures its feed fresh using local ingredients. Get the best in horse, cow, pig, chicken, and bird feeds. If you're not already a customer, stop in and see why so many of your neighbors are. The Center Hall Farm Store at 110 West Allison Street in Center Hall, or call us at 814-364-1393.
A lot has changed about State College. One thing that hasn't is W.C. Clark's Coffee Roasters on 234 East Calder Way. 30 different varieties of specialty coffee beans sourced from over 25 countries and roasted with love each morning in Happy Valley for over 45 years. They'll ship their fresh roasted coffee from their doorstep to yours. Order online at statecollegecoffee.com. That's statecollegecoffee.com.
Two of the top names in local printing have combined to serve you better. King Printing of State College has merged with theprinters.com, forming one of the 400 largest printers in America. Combining traditional offset printing and digital workflow techniques, theprinters.com can print, assemble, package, and ship to anywhere in the world, all with the same high quality customers have known and trusted for over 50 years. Buy local and save. Get started today at theprinters.com.
Ready to be part of something bigger? Come pave the road to success at Glen O'Habaker and discover a career where your hard work and determination can build a bigger, better future. Our team believes we can build a stronger future together. Join us at Glen O'Habaker, where we value teamwork on the field and on the job. Go to GOHcareers.com to apply. GOHcareers.com. And best of luck to all the Center County sports teams all season long from everyone at Glen O'Habaker.
With a Timber Kids savings account, you can start to save money, earn prizes, and teach your kids the value of savings. It's easy as 1, 2, 3. Building futures is what we do at TFCU.
You really need to belong to a credit union. You belong at TFCU, Timberland Federal Credit Union, a credit union you can grow with.
Get up and get going with the Happy Valleys 98.7 The Fox.
Welcome back into the Behind the Wall post-game show. I am your host, Landon Tangwall. We are talking Penn State at USC. Came away with one of the most exciting wins I have seen in a long time. Please, guys, leave your comments, your questions. I am live on YouTube at Behind the Wall with Landon Tangwall, and we are just, it's like you feel like just a storm just hits you if you're a Penn State fan. I don't even know what just happened watching that game. I'm looking at the stat sheet here, just talking some stuff. One thing I will say that I am slightly worried about, Tony Rojas, there was a couple times where he just looked a little lost, a little bit slower than usual. I'm not sure if he's dealing with an injury maybe. I see the shoulder brace on him, that type of thing. But not necessarily playing up to the standard that we fully expected for him. So I think that's something to keep an eye on. Kobe King, I think, played fairly well. I don't think you can necessarily say any of the linebackers played too well today, just because the amount that they rushed for. The total rushing ended up with 189, which is by far the most that Penn State has let up all season. Now, yeah, I mean that. This is, like I said, what the thing that this means to me is that Penn State's leadership is good. And I think up to this point, think about West Virginia. You go to West Virginia, hostile environment. You have to sit in the locker room for 2 hours. You come out, nothing changes. Bowling Green, you're down 10 points to a Bowling Green team at home in week 2. You handle business. You continue to handle business. You don't let anything on the outside noise affect you. You have great leadership, keeping everybody up, and then you come into a USC game where there was all the excuses in the world, travel, runways. We talked about runways probably more than an airport runway has ever been talking about in the history of sports. And guess what? You come away with a win. So it was a good day for James Franklin and company. And like I said, I think it's not exactly. It's hard because you beat an unranked team, but it's USC. Now they're sitting at 3-3, and no, obviously that's not a 3-3 team should never be ranked. But I think that's a damn good 3-3 team. I mean, Franklin said it when he was getting interviewed at the end. That is a damn good team that I respect. Now, what they're doing, actually, denied Dennis Sutton. Now, he wasn't super disruptive in the pass game necessarily, but 2 TFLs, and then he was tied for second on the team in tackles with 6 tackles, 2 TFLs. He had a big day, and that TFL at the end was huge. It was a 2 to 3 yard loss that made that field goal just a little bit longer for USC, and that allowed Penn State. Obviously, they missed it. Penn State came in, ran the ball a couple times, and we are looking good. Now let's talk about this bye week. You're headed into a bye week if you're Penn State, a physical game. Listen, Tyler Warren doesn't need to put on the pads. Don't let him touch anything. Please keep him safe for the rest of the year. Now, I think the coolest thing is USC came into this game. Let's just talk about this. What it felt like is that they had no clue who Tyler Warren even was before this game. I promise you that is not the case. And that is where I think the Penn State offense, Drew Aller, Kotonicki, deserve a little bit of a shout out, and mainly Kotonicki. He schemed it open to where Tyler Warren was going to get open. He was going to get the ball. He ties a reception record for all of college football. I don't know where to go from here. Like I said, there's no one else that's winning the Mackey Award. Some people are saying Harold Fannin Jr., who was actually the tight end for Bowling Green. Hardly a tight end. He's 230 pounds. He's a glorified wide receiver out at tight end. I don't think there's a conversation here to be had. Tyler Warren is also an elite blocking tight end on top of being a wide receiver, essentially. And that is what a tight end is. You are half wide receiver, half offensive lineman put together. That's a tight end. And Tyler Warren's doing it about as damn good as anybody possibly can do it. So, oh, man. Everybody take a deep breath. Just calm down a little bit. We need to just slightly relax. Nick Singleton, I was going to talk about him for 1 second. I think coming into this game, it was like, okay, Nick Singleton isn't all the way healthy, but we need you for this game against USC. We can't not have you play, but I don't really think he was a factor. 10 carries, 26 yards, 2.6 yards per carry. That wasn't really too much. Katron Allen is obviously someone that we relied on, 16 carries for 56 yards, 3.5 yards a carry, and obviously his touchdown. Katron Allen loves getting in the end zone. But, I mean, just a resilient effort from Penn State is what we saw today. It was fun to watch Drew Aller come out of a slump where he had his head down in the towel. It was like, okay, we are in a bad way right now after Drew Aller threw that pick and they brought it all the way back. The defense had an incredible stand. There was a couple times. There was 2 different turnovers. This defense is not getting enough credit. I know that Tom Allen struggled a little bit early on, but there was 2 times that USC was given the ball inside of our own 30-yard line, and both times they barely even gained a yard. And I think one of them, they actually went 2 yards backwards. So that is something that hasn't really been talked about. Oregon just scored They tied it up 7-7. Ohio State, Oregon. It is all tied up. This looks like it's going to be a really fun one tonight in Eugene, Oregon. So after we're done here, you guys take off over there and sit back in the living room and enjoy that with the family. But man, just we gotta find out how many different positions Tyler Warren lined up in today. I'll get you guys that stat very shortly. You know I will. But man, that was just fun. One thing I will say, I will do a post game show that I'll probably post tomorrow night, where it's obviously I get to dissect it a little bit more. Oh, never mind. It is not 7-7. Oregon just had a block kick. Ohio State picks it up and is running it all the way back, and he's tackled at the 30-yard line. Okay, it is 7-6 Ohio State in that game in Eugene right now. So as I was saying, completely lost where I was saying. Man, I don't even know where to go from here. Koto-Nicki, the mad scientist. Yeah, he definitely is. And, obviously, I think you play a good team, you're going to struggle a little bit. And that is kind of what happened right now that we saw in the beginning of the first quarter, that type of thing. Koto-Nicki offense, a little bit slow. But they got into it. Drew Aller kind of got that confidence. And it felt like when they came out in the second half, it was a different Drew Aller. That first half, it was a little bit of, you felt some nervousness. You felt like there wasn't a ton of confidence in the offense really to perform. And then you come back and that's how you come out. Drew Aller came out slinging the ball. They went down, scored a couple touchdowns, and it looked good. So once again, that adversity. And I think it's good to get adversity early on in the season. Now we're about the midway point. I don't know if there has been a team that has really been tested more than Penn State up to this point, whether that is against West Virginia, whether that is against Bowling Green being down 10 points. Overall, really, really good stuff. And that famous stat that teams are, I think, 1-8 when traveling to the other time zone or 2 time zones away, essentially from one coast to the other in the Big Ten. Go ahead and change that stat. It is now 2-9. Add Penn State to that win category. Oh, man, what a day for Penn State football. That was exciting. I think this win changed so much. I think you lose this game and you go into the bye week and the rest of the year, not really, once again, 10-2, that type of thing. You are meeting Ohio State in mid-November in Beaver Stadium for a chance to essentially solidify your spot in the Big Ten championship. I cannot wait for that week. We are going to do so much film breakdown, so much studying of Ohio State. I can't even talk about how much fun I am going to have that week. Just getting into it. Now, Drew Aller, let's talk about him for 1 second. 30 for 43, 391 yards, which is a career record for Drew Aller. 2 touchdowns, 3 picks. Really, one of those picks wasn't, he kind of just threw it up. That wasn't, he was just trying to throw it up, maybe try to get something right at the end of the game there before we went to before we went to overtime. So, but still, not the most efficient day for Drew Aller. I believe he threw more picks today. I want to say that he almost had in his career up to this point. Very close. I think 3 picks before this game. I think he only had 4 picks in his entire career. But, hey, a win is a win is a win for this Penn State team. Just looking at the stat sheet's kind of funny. You see Tyler Warren in the passing, in the rushing, in the receiving. And, I didn't mention this. One thing that was interesting, before Penn State got that false start penalty, if you remember early on, we were lined up to go for it on 4th down, and Tyler Warren motioned back to the quarterback position, and we ended up getting a false start. Well, actually, what happened there was that it looked like he was going to pooch punt it. So we were very, very close to getting a pooch punt from Tyler Warren. People quite literally asked before, hey, can Tyler Warren kick the ball? Back when Sanders Sahaydak was having trouble. Well, maybe is the answer. But guess what? We have Ryan Barker, who came in 4 for 4 today. It feels good to have a kicker that you are confident in. And I think after this game, if you're Penn State, you are incredibly confident in Ryan Barker after coming through in just the full-on clutch. Snapping the ball and catching a TD on the same play. Yeah, Tyler Warren lined up as center. Incredibly creative from Andy Koto-Nicki. The fact that you can have an eligible center. It's all about how you line guys up out on the field. And Tyler Warren, I'd have to assume Tyler Warren's the first ever player to snap a ball and catch a ball for a touchdown on the same play. I don't think there's ever a play. I mean, who would come up with that? And that's why, people have coined Andy Koto-Nicki the mad scientist. I don't think anybody else would do that. There's just absolutely no way. Man, shout out these Penn State defensive backs. I think they deserve a little bit more credit. Holding Miller Moss 220 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 1 pick. And then, obviously a third down stop that led to the missed field goal. I love what I'm seeing from these Penn State defensive backs. This was the first real test, and coming into the game, I said, hey, that is the marquee matchup, Miller Moss versus the Penn State DBs. And I think they answered the call. Obviously, there was a little bit of struggle, especially in the first half. But looking in the third quarter, the Penn State defense did the same thing they've done all year in the third quarter. Only gave up 3 points, and that is because Drew Aller gave USC's offense the ball on their own 20-yard line. They barely gained a yard, had to kick a field goal. So that Penn State defensive adjustments continue to be elite. As much as Tom Allen struggles a little bit early in the game, he makes up for it a lot. Now, I think where that becomes a problem is when you were talking Ohio State and when you were talking the playoffs. You can't start slow. It can't take you 2 quarters to get going if you're a Penn State defense. So I think that is something to keep in mind. Now, the run game for Penn State, 118 yards, was good enough. And I told you guys, I think USC is going to stack the box, and they are not going to let Penn State run the ball. They are going to make Drew Aller beat them with his arm. That is essentially what happened. I think that is dead on what happened. And yeah, I'm excited to take a look at the film. You guys should, like I said, these post game are kind of this direct post game for me is pretty raw. Obviously, I didn't get to watch any of the film. I was watching it on a TV here in Quaker Stick and Lube. So the post game analysis tomorrow, when I put out the video, will be a lot more in depth. It'll have a lot of good video on it, explaining kind of really what happened in that game, why we struggled at the beginning, and then how we kind of turned it on. So I am excited to get into that. And fun fact, I just realized Drew Aller threw for 391 yards, but Tyler Warren threw for 9 yards on his 1 completion. So Penn State passed for 400 yards today. I'm curious, when's the last time he passed for 400 yards? That is a stat I'm definitely going to have to look up because you guys know I love my stats. So I'm excited to check that out. But overall, man, just a good day to be a Penn State Nittany Lion. And pretty much no matter what, we go to 3. I don't think there's a world where we don't go to 3. In Ohio State or Oregon, I think if you lose, you can't only drop 1 spot. So yeah, we're headed to number 3 in the country. So I'm trying to think. The last time Penn State was ranked number 3, I think we were 2 when we played Ohio State in 2018. Correct me if I'm wrong. Someone let me know in the comment section here. So we're looking at 2 versus 1, 2 versus 3, that type of thing when we play Ohio State in what is that? I guess 3 weeks. We got bye week, Wisconsin, Ohio State at Beaver. Whew, it should be fun. Refs were one-sided. I'm not even a USC fan. It was pretty obvious. Very poorly officiated. Yeah, I started out the game saying, hey, these refs are kind of working us a little bit for Penn State. And by the end, it was like, oh, we're getting some really favorable calls at the moment. So, yeah, guys, if you're just joining now, Penn State 33, USC 30, I'm going to tell you guys, Penn State is moving up to number 3 almost surely just because the way the schedule works with Ohio State and Oregon playing right now. A couple other things to talk about is that Venga Ioane, I love how Andy Kotonicki is moving him around. He is lined up at wide receiver, at tight end, at his normal position at guard, in the backfield, everywhere. That is a way to utilize your unique offensive lineman. You got a 350-pound man that is able to move in space and kill dudes, as we saw last week. Continue to move him around. And there was even a couple times where they motioned Venga down and basically tried to do a pitch outside of Venga. They put Venga at wide receiver, motioned him down, and there was so much attention on Venga. Hey, it's a run, it's a run. They motioned him down, Drew kind of booted out and threw it to Tyler Warren for 15 to 20 yards. So that is a good way of Andy Kotonicki kind of disguising things, kind of using things. Hey, we're gonna do this. We're gonna, trying to show the defense, hey, this is what we're gonna do, but really we're gonna kind of backdoor you here. So I love to see it. I think the offensive line overall had pretty good protection on the day. I wish earlier on we just would have slinged it a little bit more. I think we had protection. We were playing like we were afraid of the USC defensive line, and I don't really think we should have been at all. There was really no reason for that. So I mean, USC they played their butts off, but it was a good day. I'll tell you what. for Penn State. I'm excited heading into the bye week. I know the guys are excited. Anytime you get an emotional win like this, heading into the bye week, you're excited because you get to have some time off. It was a physical game, especially Tyler. I'm sure Tyler Warren's body is going to be ringing after this one. But I mean, I'm happy with Penn State's performance. Could it have been better? Absolutely. But right now, where you sit, when you are playing a really good team across the country, if you get out of there with a win, you have to be happy. And this was an adjustment from Penn State team that USC had 248 yards total as a team at halftime. And then, you end the game and it is much, much different kind of vibe from that Penn State defense and USC offense. They had one good drive in the second half. Really, outside of that one drive where they scored a touchdown, not much else was going on. And they were averaging 13.4 yards per carry at halftime. USC was. That drastically changed in the second half. So, love to see it from Penn State. What an effort. You are listening to Landon Tangwall Behind the Wall post-game show. We're going to wrap up here. I don't have too much more to talk about. I want to get you guys out watching this Oregon-Ohio State game. It is going to be a big one. And like I said, no matter what, I think we are the number 3 team in the nation. If whoever loses, we move up. That's just kind of how it works. So I appreciate you guys tuning in. I have a really fun week scheduled. We have some player interviews. I actually have one with Tyler Warren coming out. Surprisingly, that'll be fun this week. I got a ton of cool stuff for you guys to get you through the bye week. We'll have a film breakdown from this USC game, talking a ton of different stuff. We'll definitely have to look at that Tyler Warren throwback play. But we got a lot of stuff going on. Someone said, Landon, what's your Ohio State-Oregon prediction? I think it's going to be a barn burner. I'll go 35-38 Ohio State. 35-38 OSU. That's my prediction. I think Ohio State will take it. And then, like I said, I think we will bump up. Oregon will maybe drop 2, 3 spots, but either way, we're moving up. It's going to be a good day to be a Penn State Nittany Lion. I think first time ranked inside the top 3 since 2018, I believe. That is what it'll be. So, good times, guys. I appreciate you guys tuning in. That means a lot. Like I said, I will be posting a post-game show tomorrow night, film breakdown Monday, and then we're going to get into a slew of fun stuff this week that I'm going to put out for you guys that isn't always necessarily in-season related. We're going to do an NIL conversations episode, a lot of stuff moving around in the NIL world. It's going to be a really good week. I love you guys. I appreciate it. Obviously people talk to me about these games and ask me, is it ever hard to watch, that type of thing? And I say it's not, because I love what I do now, and I really appreciate your guys' support in my transition into what I'm doing in the media now from my playing days. So it means a lot to me, guys. I really appreciate you guys tuning in. Be on the lookout for the post-game show tomorrow night. And I love you guys. Enjoy the rest of the night and enjoy Oregon and Ohio State. Landon Tangwall signing off. Peace.